Hello again. This is video 3 in our To-Do app. So if you remember from video 1, the introduction, we talked about a challenge that I received from a student at a bootcamp where they were assigned the task of building out an Express backend and a React front end, and the React front end kind of had to go into Express and do all this stuff. In the first actual coding video, the last one, we built out our Express server. We did all that. And in this video, we are going to add our database. Now, again, our database is going to be SQLite. SQLite goes to, it doesn't need a server. It just goes to a file. And then you read and write to that file. In our case, we don't even need a file. And I'll show you what that means in a few seconds here. But we are going to use SQLite. Most of your SQL knowledge, if you have that, will work here. Most of it is just general SQL stuff. So let's get into that. I'm going to shut down my server. It's still running, and I am in the backend folder. Okay. If you remember, all the way over here, we have some of these things. Okay. So in this backend folder, this is where we are still working. Okay. So for some reason I have QuickTime open. I don't need that. We can close it. A little bit of extra fun. We start by installing SQLite, and it is the third version of SQLite. So npm I, again, I is short for install. You could type install, but as a shortcut, npm I SQLite 3. Okay, not at 3. Okay, no funkiness. The full name is SQLite 3. And in fact, if you're on a Mac, an Apple product, they use SQLite files everywhere. So after this installs, a little bit faster, please. There it is. Okay, you can actually see, not because I installed it, but because I have it. Okay, this was there all along. So by default, the Mac has SQLite installed. Now we can't use this version. Okay, I only show this version in case you want to start using it for, say, Bash scripts or something like that, right? SQLite 3 is already there, and you can use it. In order to get access to it inside of JavaScript, we do need this extra package. Okay, there's no way around it. We need something so that we can read and write to that file, because it's not just plain text. Okay, you can't just crack it open in an editor and make changes. So there we are. We install it. If we go back to our editor, all the way over here, we should see SQLite 3. Okay, and that's good. So now we can get started. We don't actually need this. We can do a commit, right? We just changed something, so we should probably commit first. Git status like this. Just the package file. So git add dot git commit dash m. What is this? A chore, I guess. It's chore for the database, and add SQLite 3 package. Okay, brilliant. Now into the code. We are here. We are going to build out a new folder inside of our source. So right here, new folder, we're going to call it DB for database. I know, naming things, very interesting. New file, also db.js. Okay, and this is where we are going to set up our database. Okay, we're going to export this in a few seconds and use it everywhere else. Okay, but we start here. So const SQLite equals require, in quotes, SQLite 3. That is exactly right, right? Not, if you get this run wrong, it will throw errors at you. So remember that 3. That's very important. Down here, we're going to actually set up a brand new database using that command. So we'll call it DB, because naming things is fun. new SQLite. Autocomplete is there, and we should see a capital D database. Okay, that's the one we want, just like this. And inside of here, if you hover over this inside of VS Code, it will give you some clues. The first one being file name. Every time I try to scroll to it, it goes away. But you can see file name in there. And that part can be anything. So if you actually wanted this to persist data and you wanted to upload that and store it somewhere, you could just go /db.sqlite as an example, whatever you wanted, or SQLite.db or app.db. You get to name it whatever you want, and it will use that every single time. Now for us, we want it to be in memory, okay? And SQLite actually gives us access to this, or at least this package does, where we can type :memory:. So this is going to not save to a file. In fact, every time we restart the server, it's going to start a brand new instance of SQLite. Okay, that feels like it could be a problem, but for testing, for playing with it, it makes it very efficient, right? I'm not littering my system with a bunch of different files. I don't have to really remember what that is. It's all just in memory. I shut the server down, and the database goes with it. Okay. Now, down here we are going to export that. Module.exports, yes, equals DB. And that way we can use it in other places. But before that, we want to do a couple things. The first one we want to do is create the table. Okay, so when we run this file for the first time, it's going to stand up that database. Okay, we do that with the db command, and on here are a bunch of different things. There's close, there's each, there's get. Somewhere down here is run. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Run will let us, run a command, run an SQL command without getting a response. There's no response here. Okay. In fact, I think it says that. Yeah, it returns void. Okay. So inside of here, we do some stuff. Create table. If this is your first time with SQL, we capitalize all of our keywords. Okay. That's a convention, not a requirement. So these could be lowercase, doesn't matter, but most of the time you are going to see capital letters when it comes to keywords, actual commands. Okay. We're going to create a table called to-dos. And inside of that, we are going to create two things. Okay. Three things. We're going to need an ID. We're going to need the content of the to-do, and we're going to need the completed status. For us, that's all we need. We could add more. You could add more if you want to do more features, but for now, this is all we need. Okay. That ID is going to be an integer. Okay. It's a number. It's an integer. We also want it to be the primary key, which means that it will, if we don't supply an ID, it will take whatever the next available key is and use it. Okay. So it will auto increment for us. If we already have 3, it's going to create 4. You'll see that in a bit. Down here, we have content. Content is just text. Unlike other databases, SQLite doesn't have a lot of variance in terms of the data types. You have integer, you have something around float. I don't remember if it's actually called float. You have text, and you have something else that I forget. Most of the time, though, integer and text are what you get. And even then, if you're familiar with SQLite, you could go varchar 20, right? It doesn't matter because behind the scenes, SQLite is just going to make this text, okay? So no need to get carried away with that. It does not have Booleans either. Booleans, true and false, are translated to 1 and 0 respectively. True is 1, false is 0. So in that case, we should just make it an integer, and that will be a default of 0. So if we don't supply completed, it will make it 0 for us. If we don't supply ID, it will take the next available number in that ID chain and use it. Okay. So we have this. This is good stuff. Now, I have some weird formatting rules going on. I don't really like that. Can I wrap this? I think I can. There we go. Just for my own sanity, okay? Creating the table, doing the stuff. We want to populate that table, give it some starter data. Most of this might be onboarding, right? So right here, same sort of thing. Where we have that, let's get this back. And right here, we are going to insert into, okay? Insert into that to-dos table. We're going to get content and completed. Notice there's no ID. ID happens automatically, okay? If we don't supply it, it will use whatever it can. Again, down here, values, just like this. We can pass in as many values as we want so long as they are wrapped up. So this is a completed to do, just like this. Close it off, and let's make it completed as 1. This is the only reason that I added completed, so that I could do this, right? Everything else is going to be 0. So let's do it here. Okay. You can check the checkbox to complete this. Now, no checkbox here, but when we build out the UI, there will be, okay? So we have that. It's kind of array-like, right? You notice the commas on the end, kind of like an array if you've been around a while. Add some more with the input. Brilliant, okay? This is also 0. Now, if we save this, this might work. And the problem is that these DB commands, this run and this run, they are run in parallel, which means that they are run at exactly the same time, or almost the exact same time, which means that we might not have this to-dos table because it is still being created, okay? A little bit of a race condition. We can fix that by using something called DB serialize, okay? Ooh, where is it here? Serialize, there it is. And this is going to take a callback function. And everything in here is going to be run one at a time. This is going to finish before this can start, okay? So we can grab that. We can boost it right up into that line. And now we are good to go, okay? That's all we needed for this file. We can save it. We can close it. We don't need to look at it anymore, okay? Over here in to-do, we are going to use that. So let's import that. Const db equals, ooh, like this. There we are. Require, and we get that file. Now we have to go up to the database and then into that database folder to get it. Now we can start using it, okay? We aren't going to see a lot here, mainly because we haven't actually run anything yet, which is okay, okay? npm run dev, get that working. It is throwing an error. What am I doing? Near content, I must have missed a comma. So back into the file. Yes, I did. I missed all of these commas. There we go. So save it. Should refresh. Still getting it. Where is it? Table to-dos has no column named completed. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, yes, I did. See? Spelling mistakes. Save it. Brilliant. We are there. We haven't actually used anything, but at the very least, we can see that it is working. So let's go and get those in that, well, in that get statement, right? Back to to-dos. We are in here. We want to get all of these. So db dot, well, there's a handy all right there. You can see it in the list, right? So let's use it. And then we get. So for when we get stuff, we select it. We want to select all the columns. There's only 3, so we get them all. From should be capitalized because I want to keep good habits. to-dos, okay? So there it is. We have it all. Now, after this, it's kind of like old school fetching, right? Data fetching, where instead of using a promise or a async await, we use callbacks, okay? So we're going to pass in that callback just the way similar to how we did up here. Inside of there, we're going to get the error and the rows because it returns multiple. So plural, right? We name it plural. Over here, we can get something done. Now, the first thing we want to do is check for an error, okay? So if error and console log that error just so that we can see what it is. Maybe that'll be caught by something. We do some kind of a logger. And then because it's an error, our front end isn't going to work, right? So we may as well just send back a message that says it's broke, come back later. And we do that with response.send, okay? But again, we need a status. So way up here, adding that right here, dot status 500, because it's some kind of a server error, right? We're just saying it's broke pretty bad, right? This means that we messed up. We the creators of this server, okay? But if there is no error, then we can respond with the data, okay? Now that data is going to be whatever the rows are, okay? Save it. So we've selected all that data, we've checked for an error, and if we don't have an error, we send back the rows. Way over to Bruno, which is what I'm using for API testing, over to my get to-dos and hitting the switch, and you see that we have an array of 1, 2, 3 items. This one's completed. These bottom two are not, right? We're already making good progress. So let's keep going. Let's get that other get done just so that we can say it's done. I'm going to copy all of this inside of here and paste it under the ID because I still need that ID, right? Let's make sure that that stays there. So right here, we go and we get, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to update this. That's what I'm trying to do. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay. So instead of db.all, we only want one. And they don't really have one. Maybe they do. Nope, just once. Okay. I don't know what once does, but in this case, we're using get. Okay. And it's all the same thing, except that afterwards we go where ID equals something. Now, you might be tempted, because of the backticks, you might be tempted to just toss ID right in here and get it done. This is a bad time. Don't do this, okay? I'm about to fix it, so stay with me for a second. What's going to happen is any information can come through on this ID, which means that they might put something in here that can change this query, can change it in a bad way. If you've never heard, there's a running joke of, I think it's Bobby drop tables. I never remember, or maybe Johnny drop tables, right? Where you can send in a command that basically clobbers all of your tables. Bad news, right? That's an injection attack. So we do not want to do this. Instead, we can do something else. Whoops, I wanted the D, but wanted to get rid of the thing. We use this $ID, right? It's not in quotes, so it's not going to come from outside of here. Instead, we need to pass in another argument right here, okay? There's a few different ways to do this. I usually pass it in as an object because that's what I like. It makes it very clear to me, okay? But again, we use that $ID. That's whatever you named here goes here, okay? And then we pass in the variable that we want of ID. And you might think, well, wait a minute, we're just tossing that in, but we aren't, because behind the scenes, SQLite takes this and sanitizes it for us. It makes it so that this data cannot ever affect this query. At most, we will get some kind of an error, but it's not going to break our database, okay? So it's sanitizing the results. It's making sure that we have a decent level of security. Okay. Changing the names. It's no longer plural rows. It's just row. So we can do this row, save it, go back, go over here. This is not right. Let's go for number 2. And we get number 2. It's not complete. You can check the checkbox. Okay. So it's working. But what if instead we had 2,222? Okay. We get an empty string. Now, behind the scenes, this is undefined. It's trying to send something. So it sends an empty string. But behind the scenes, it is very much undefined row. Okay. So maybe instead what we want is if type of row equals undefined, there it is. We want to send a result, right? We want to send a result of 404 not found. So now we have a really good security setup. Let's go and check it. It should give me 404 not found. This is great. We now have something that works. If it's a valid response, where is it? It's breaking. Why is it always breaking recently? What did I miss? Going back over here. I know why. It's because I still have some information. Where is it? Oh, it's because even though I have this, it still keeps going. So what I need to do here is I need to return. Okay. Return leaves this callback function. So it can't get to these bottom ones fast, which means that now, again, it's restarted and send it. 222, a bunch of numbers, 404, not found. Okay. So I missed a little bit of a thing. That's what happens when we do these. Okay. Excellent. We are in good shape, which means that we should probably commit, right? We should probably go and get over here, git status, git add dot, git commit dash m, feature db, use db in get routes. Okay. Excellent. Let's go and do the post, right? Post is where we live. So let's make sure that that is working. Way over here, copy and pasting again, just like this. And we are going to do this just like this. Okay. Now, we need to jump through some hoops here. And we're going to take the long way to get there because, hey, that's how I roll, right? I start with the difficult stuff and then show you an easier way. Okay. So if you don't want to type this, that's fine, but definitely pay attention. Here we go. This is going to be a run because right here, we don't expect any response from this run. Okay. Which means that we are going to insert into to-dos, spell it proper. There it is, to-dos. And we only need to send in content. Okay. That content is going to have values. There's only going to be one, so we don't need to worry about any of that. And it's going to be $to-do. Again, $to-do. Thank you. Just like that. Again, sanitizing the results. Okay. So $to-do, just like this, is going to be this to-do, just like this. Save it. That's going to break because we no longer get row. Okay. Instead, we just get the error. Now, we are going to use this in a second, so we can comment that out. We're going to come back to it. But actually, I'm wrong. We can just get rid of it. But we need to figure out how or what we inserted. What is that ID? And thankfully, SQLite gives us this information. It's on this, the keyword this. Okay. Last, it's not going to be in there. Where is it? Last ID, capitalized. Okay. It might not be finding it because I'm broke, right? This thing is not going to work right. This arrow functions don't work nice with with the keyword this. So we need to change this to a function, okay? And then that should probably work. Let's check again. This last, yeah, there it is, last ID. And we capture that, const last ID. Now there's only one value going in, so we should only ever get one value. So this is pretty safe. This, I'm confident this will work, okay? Now that we have that ID, we go up here, copy all of this goodness inside of the get, okay? Paste it right underneath and change this ID to last ID, okay? Again, if it throws errors, if it's undefined, I mean, why would it be undefined? We just inserted it, right? So it shouldn't be. We should be able to get rid of that in theory. We save this, we go over to here, add a to-do. The to-do is buy milk. We fire it, we get number 4. Go back here, we should see number 4. Okay, so everything is working. But like I said, this is kind of a long way to do this, right? We have a lot of stuff going on here, and we have two requests, right? We do it twice. So instead, maybe we copy this away. I'm going to leave it as an example just to keep it visually, but I want to start again. And this time I want to change this back to a get, okay? Now remember I said insert doesn't really return anything unless you type returning. And returning is kind of like a select. So it takes the rows that you want. In this case, we want all of them. And now we can do all that good stuff, okay? So because we are using a get, it's no longer error. We have basically everything underneath here. We can go and get this right here, copy it. We should be able to, what am I doing here? Deleting all of this, okay? So the error is there, and I still have too much. Of course I have too much right here, okay? That's all I really needed. Good, okay? Because there should be a row. There it is, okay? So let's review this really fast. We have that get, and we inserted, but we also returned. That return goes into this function as the row that we just inserted. There's only one, so we only need one, okay? If it throws an error, we do that. If it doesn't, we return it. And this will work exactly the same. Now, interesting side note, again, we're over here. Let's fire this one first, because you'll notice there is no number 4, okay? No number 4 because we restarted the server, and when we restarted the server, it inserted these 3 for us, but no number 4. So over to post, fire it off. Again, number 4 is here, back here, one more time. Now we have number 4, okay? So very long way around, but you can see that multiple paths, right? We could do it this way where we have the get inside of the run like this, or we could use returning, okay? That is saved, which means that we should commit. So git status like this. Did I have to save anything? No, I didn't. Okay. So just one git add dot git commit dash m feature for the database. Use db in post route. Okay. Boom. Similar request to last time. If you want, if you're feeling up for it, I'm going to give you a few seconds. Now would be a really good time to pause and try to do the put and the delete. Hopefully you did that. I'm going to keep going. So very similar stuff. I'm going to grab, well, this command right here, and I'm going to bring it down and try to use it, okay? Now, should it be a get? Should to-do return something? We already have the data, so it's really up to you, right? In this case, I'm going to switch it back to a run, okay? Because I don't really want to return anything. So I'm going to get rid of this. That doesn't matter to me. In fact, I'm going to change all of this. Okay. It's going to be update, just like this. To-dos set. And what are we setting? We are setting the content equal to $content. Dollar. Keep missing that. There it is. Content. And completed equal to $completed, where ID equals $ID. Okay. Lots of dollars in there. So we need to go and do that. But before that, we need to figure out where content is actually coming from, where completed is actually coming from. Well, it's all right on body. So maybe we need to get rid of this and just expand that to be content and completed. Okay. So now we can use that. Let's go over here. We're going to replace this $content is content, comma, $completed is completed. A lot of duplication here, but that's kind of how it goes, right? $ID. If we didn't do all this duplication, then we could suffer from those injection attacks. So a little bit of extra code for a whole lot of peace of mind. I am very much okay with that. Okay. Again, moving on, we have this function. The run does not return anything. Okay. So all we're really looking for is if there's an error. And if there is, we send back 500. If there isn't, we send back a status of 204. Okay. Send that should be empty because we don't care about the response. There is no response because it is 204. Okay. Whoops. Save it. Go over here. Whoops. To Bruno. And what are we going to do? We are going to update number 2. So into the put, we're going to replace all of this. And we're going to update it to, be completed. Okay. The ID needs to change. So let's do that. Technically, we have the ID down here, but making sure that we could spoof this, right? If we spoof this and then we're using a different ID, that could be bad news, right? So it's probably better to always lean on this ID here. Or not. I don't know. Might be some research on my part. But send this. It says 204. But if we go back here and fire it, we see that completed is 1. Okay. So we're there. Let's go and get that delete in the bag really fast. We can do that by copy and pasting right here, putting it down here, gutting all of this except for the where. So delete from. Yeah, delete from. It took me a second to remember that. Delete from to-dos where ID is ID because we get that up here, which means we can clear out all of this. It is a run, which means that we're checking the error, we're sending it back. This needs to go away, just like so, and send it. Okay. So let's try deleting number 1 as an example. We go over here, delete number 1, send it, 204 no content. And if we go back here, 2, 3, because it restarted, we don't have that 4 anymore, but we definitely don't have number 1 either. Okay. Saving these so that we can do it, going and committing, git status, brilliant. Okay. Git add dot, git commit dash m, db like this. That's how I've been doing it. Use db in put and come on, type delete. Okay, there it is. I want to do one more thing here, and then this video is wrapped up. Okay, that one more thing is all the way over in server. Okay. Because right now there is a small chance, and we probably won't see it here, but there's a small chance where sometimes when you shut down the server, it throws an error because it hasn't quite finished with the database yet. or the database hasn't been shut down in the same way. And so it will scream at you and it will give you a little bit of an error message. We don't really want that. Instead, what we want is whenever we shut down, we want it to say that it's cleaned up after itself. This is called a graceful shutdown. Okay. So over in server, we set up what's called process. Okay. Process.on, kind of like an event listener. So we send in SIGINT, which is short for signal interrupt. Okay. And then we send in our callback function. So inside of our callback function, we want to turn the server off, but we don't reference the server anywhere here. The only place where we get server is right here. Everything else is just setting it all up, right? We set everything up and then we ship it to listen. And listen is where it actually turns the server on. The nice thing is Express has this figured out. So right here, again, if we put a variable in front of this, it will return that value into this variable. And now we can use it down here, okay? So server.close, you'll see the autocomplete is working really nice. It's another callback. And inside of here, we go db.close2, okay? In fact, just to see the magic happen, console log, going the other way, shutting down server and db, okay? We are not getting any errors here because even though we have not imported that. I don't know what that's doing, but yeah, we haven't actually imported database yet. So normally my editor would be screaming at me. That's probably because we haven't added ESLint and whatnot. Right up here, we should import it. Equals require in quotes, source/db/db. Okay. Now we have everything. We have the database so that we know what we're shutting down. We're gracefully shutting down. We're saving all this. It should restart, but now when I hit the stop, it's going to throw an error once because it didn't know what to do here. Okay. Server didn't exist because I wrote that in after the fact. So once more with feeling, let's start it up and then shut it down. And it is throwing an error. What am I missing here? Shutting down the database is closed. Sometimes we just get some funkiness, don't we? Come on. Let's go npm. I have seen this error at least once before, and I'm not exactly sure why it does this, but go and add this. We can see that that's in there. Brilliant. We go back here, we shut it down. Yeah, every once in a while it just doesn't quite write to the database, or maybe I'm going too fast. I'm not sure what's going on, but that code will absolutely work, especially since we aren't just starting and stopping the way that I was. So if I had started it and then maybe counted to 20 and then stopped it, I bet you it would have worked. Okay, it just takes some time to get everything in place. At this point, we have it all. So let's recap what we've done in this video. First off, we need to commit something. Let's go do that. Git status, just the backend server. Git diff. Yeah, okay. Git add dot git commit -m. What exactly is this? I guess it's a feature for the backend. Okay. And we add graceful shutdown. Okay. Good. Again, git log -- one line. That's what we're doing. Here's where we are, right? We were here refactoring. We added SQLite, and then we added it to our endpoints. Okay. Over in the code, in that to do, or sorry, in the database file first. We set it all up. We set up our table rows, our table columns, and then we added some placeholder content. That way we just have something to work with. From there, we use that database because we exported it, so we make it a singleton, and we use that everywhere. Okay, we used it in all of our different routes, even going the long way around when we could have gone a little bit shorter for that post. Could have done similar things down here for put and delete, but it all works out. And then we finished with a little bit of a graceful shutdown right here. And that's it. We now have a functioning server. Okay, it will serve up all of our endpoints that we need. It won't serve the React app just yet. We still have some work to do there. But right now, right in this moment, the server, we can send information to the server. It will be stored in the database, and we can get information out of that database and back to our request. Okay, which means that we're in good shape. The next one is going to be starting our UI. Because we have all this information working, we can be confident that when we try to reach out for this information in the UI, it should work. And that is our next step to stand up that React app. Hopefully I'll see you there. Hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, I will see you in the next one.